NieR Automata. Automata? You have no idea how hard it is for a New Yorker to pronounce that. I'm literally twisting my tongue. It's like I'm speaking in the alien language. Whatever the game is called and however you pronounce it correctly, this is a really, really good open world action RPG. At the same time, it's also really, really weird. But that's like par for the course for Japanese games. I think it would be weird if a Japanese game wasn't weird. It's weird because it's a strange mixture. I mean, it's a game that's post-apocalyptic. It takes place on a post-apocalyptic Earth. You know, destroyed cities, all of that sort of thing. But the thing is, it's not a depressing post-apocalyptic Earth. Any kind of post-apocalyptic fiction, it's always depressing. It's always like pollution, destruction, dirty, people with no hope. But that's not what this game is. I mean, everything is destroyed, but it's beautiful. It's like either covered in sand or covered in greenery. It's a beautiful landscape. It actually kind of reminds me of the worlds of the two Vampire Hunter D movies, where they also took place on a futuristic post-apocalyptic world, but it wasn't necessarily an ugly world. It had great scenery. And another thing that makes this game a lot more beautiful and pastoral is the music that accompanies your gameplay. It's like this laid-back RPG music that often doesn't really fit with what's going on screen. Like, a lot of times, there's a lot of action. You're fighting like an army of robots. You're running super fast. But the music is kind of relaxing, almost like you're doing Tai Chi or something of that sort. Another thing I think is weird is like every other AAA massive title is now an open world action RPG. Like, think about it. Every game coming out now is an open world action RPG. And I get why a lot of games coming out now are open world. It's because gamers will get more bang for the buck. By this I mean, let's say you have $60 to spend on the game. That's pretty much your gaming allowance for that month, right? So you have to choose where you're going to play for that month. You can get a massive open world game like NieR Automata and, you know, invest dozens of hours into it, or you can get a fighting game. Sure, you can invest dozens of hours into a fighting game, but typically you wouldn't. It's just a lot more bang for your buck. But also, most open world games, on top of them being so prevalent, they're also RPGs now. And I think that's because most games are RPGs at this point. Like, every game is going to have RPG elements. The perfect example is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. A great action game, a great side-scrolling game, but then they added in RPG elements. You can level up your character, you find weapons and armor, and you have somewhat of a story. None of that makes the game worse. If anything, it's just additions to the game. It can't hurt a game to have RPG elements, to feel like you're getting bigger and stronger, to find new equipment, to upgrade your CPU. In this game, you are a cyborg, so instead of like upgrading your character physically, you put in new chips into yourself to upgrade yourself. And also, of course, you find new weapons that are stronger than the previous weapon. I feel like in the future, almost every game will have RPG elements and will be an open world game. Like, every game will be an open world action RPG, basically. Like, puzzle games 15 years from now will be open world puzzle games with RPG elements that we will be playing on the PlayStation 15 VR. NieR has a great OST, a great setting, but really the best thing about this action RPG is the action. The combat is so robust and fun. It's perfect, almost perfect. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's almost perfect combat. You have great controls. You can move around the battlefield flawlessly. So every time you get hit or every time you die, it's your own fault because you weren't paying attention. Your character has every single tool to beat the enemies. You just have to have good timing yourself. The battles are basically doing normal attacks, strong attacks, mixing those up, and also shooting from far away. Most of the time, you will probably be fighting the enemies with ranged attacks, just because it's smart. I'm sure some people have different playstyles, but whenever I get the chance, I'm always far away from the combat. Let my companions stay up close and get hit by the enemies. I'll be nice and far away, shooting from far away, not getting hit, and thus lowering my chances of getting killed. NieR Automata, it's like one of those games where it's hard to find a flaw. It's hard to say something bad about the game because I can't really think of anything bad. It's like one of those games where you could say it's a perfect 10, although it's not. It's not a perfect 10. I don't think anything is like a perfect 10. That's like the unreachable goal. You can't be the perfect thing. There's no such thing, even though it is obviously everyone's opinion what's perfect and what's not. There's no perfection. There's always like another glass ceiling to break. If you play one game that you feel like is the best game ever, at a certain point, there's a chance you might play a better game. So if that game you played before is a 10, is the other game now 11? Is it breaking the scale? But I think, like, in terms of open world action RPGs, NieR Automata is as close to perfect as you can get, realistically speaking, in 2017. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more game reviews. Support me on Patreon if you can, so I can make more of these videos. Goodbye, my friends.